Hello there.
Hi, Liz.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Welcome, everyone. I see we've got some people joined and ready to go.
Yes. And so, Liz, I was just going to do a little quick intro from our committee, and then that way I'll turn the floor over to you. But I know everyone's really excited about this event, the training course today. So,
Excellent. Thank you.
you bet. Well, hello, everyone. I know as we're all getting on, I want to again welcome you all to the Mortgage Committee um, learning opportunity, right? So, as part of the mortgage committee, we strive to always bring relevant information to our members, our leaders, and this is something that's really near dear to our heart. This has been something in the making for a little bit over a year now, and we're so excited to bring it here today. And we hope that with your support and feedback that we want to be able to do an ongoing courses like this to really provide our members and our leaders more tools and resources to perfect your craft and just be a more well-rounded individual in terms of at home, life, work balance, everything overall. But today I'm really excited because I get to introduce one of our very own, Elizabeth Miller, go by Liz, as one of our mortgage committee member. I am Melina Fan, your AREAA Mortgage chair. So we're excited today to present to you today the science of people. Liz will kind of dive in and give you a little bit of her background, and then she's going to go ahead and start off and kick off the webinar for our training class today. So Liz, the floor is yours, and thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you so much, Melina. It's an honor to get to share this topic with you. And just a little bit about me. I actually started in financial services in the credit side of the business. I worked for Experian in sales and marketing management for 15 years. And then the downturn happened, '06 to '08. And I was actually in the Central Florida market during that time. And I took the opportunity during the downturn to go back to school and really shift my career away from sales and more into education. So I went back to school, got my degree in organizational communication from University of Texas, right here in Austin. That's where I am, Austin, Texas. And I really wanted to focus on the types of topics and the type of education that I could bring back to the corporate world. I didn't really want to stay in academia. I did not want to teach school per se, although I did teach at University of Texas as well as Texas State University through grad school. But I really wanted to come back to the corporate world, and I really enjoy working with professionals and audiences like this, people that want to better themselves. They're not just showing up to class because they have to. You actively engaged and enrolled and chose to be here. So you're investing in your own learning. And that's the type of student I prefer to work with, someone who really wants to learn. And so I continued on through grad school, got my master's degree in curriculum development, training and development, as well as furthered my master's in communication. So communication and the science of people is my specialization, which is why I call this the science of people. Communication is always better if you understand the science behind people. And this is all about learning how we are different, learning how we can cater our communication to each other just for more success in life. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, get the presentation going. So just confirming you all can see the first slide. Awesome. Thank you, Melina. And we have a manageable size group. So we've actually shifted this. This isn't one of those webinars where I'm going to lecture at you for an hour. I'm going to encourage you to turn your camera on And if you want to share a thought, ask a question, feel free to come off mute and just join in, and we can have a discussion for the next hour or so. And if you can't be camera on and you can't be mic hot, that's fine too. Feel free to engage through the chat window. I'll keep an eye on that as well. So for those that registered early and were able to do your personality assessment ahead of time, raise your hand. Did anyone, were you able to do that ahead of time? Okay, if you were not, that's okay. I'm used to working with sales folks, and they don't always do their pre-work ahead of time. So on the screen right now is a QR code and a little sample of a personality assessment. And while I chat, there is a little bit of explanation on the front end. If you didn't do your assessment, you can actually do it right now. So I'm going to challenge you to engage, and that's really the most important thing, is that self-assessment, the insight that you're going to get about yourself, and that helps you learn about others. So take a moment, grab that QR code. You can just do it right on your phone. It's a really brief personality assessment. It's not, hours long answering a million questions. It's pretty quick. And what you're going to get is your personality type. And it's free. It does ask you to put in an email address optionally. If you choose to do that, you will get some articles and emails from this website. I actually did that and I like their content, but it is optional. You do not even have to do that. You can just do the assessment and be done. So take a moment to do that if you have not. And I'm actually sharing mine up on the screen. I am an architect. That's my personality type, which is represented by the letters INTJ-A. And that's within the analyst category of personality types. And it tells me on all these different areas what my percentage is. For example, the first one, people may not realize I'm more of an introvert. And I think that's why staying behind a Zoom screen or on a stage presenting, while it appears like I am extroverted, I'm actually 61% introverted. Now, it's not 99%, so I can be extroverted in certain contexts, but that insight helps me know about myself, but it also opens my eyes to the fact that everyone around me isn't the same as me. We're all different. Okay. Ooh, look, Jordan shared he's an INTP-A. Let's see, we've got, thank you, Jordan, for sharing that link. I appreciate that. Lena shares ENTJ-A. You're going to find in our industry, we might have some commonalities, but thank you for sharing. If you would like to share, feel free to share in the chat window and compare, but you don't have to, so it's up to you. So I'm going to start off with some explanation. For those of you who are still working on yours, keep going. Okay, science of people. What are you going to get out of this time together? It's really answering the question, who am I? Who am I? Because we don't always have a great perspective on ourselves. And it takes intentionally taking classes like this, spending time doing self-assessment, doing that self-reflection to really get to know who you are. And answer questions like, what am I like? How am I perceived by other people? When I walk out of my house in the morning and I'm going to start to engage with people, whether they're customers, people who I work for, people who work for me, how do they see me? How am I viewed in a social context? Because we all live in a society. We are part of a community in lots of different ways, whether it's the AREAA community or the company that we work for, our family units, our coworkers, our customer bases. We're part of these social structures, and it's really helpful to know how we fit in that. How are we seen by others? How do others see us? And while we don't want to you know, be like we're on social media all the time and we care so much about what others think. We do have to care a little bit in terms of how do we successfully engage with others. You might want to learn, how are you different from others? We are diverse. We are in a diverse country. We're in a diverse industry, and we are going to be different from each other. In fact, if I'm even at a family reunion where we all grew up in similar cultures, there's going to be differences between us, and understanding how we differ helps you navigate that better. But in the same context, also knowing how you're similar. So where we're different and where we're diverse and where we can celebrate our differences, we can also find common ground. We can find how we're the same. And if every customer you encounter is someone where you could celebrate your differences and find common ground, that's where you can really connect quickly with another human being and build that trust a little faster. And of course, how am I unique? And when you're trying to differentiate yourself in a market, it's helpful to know how you're unique and being able to play up your strengths. Where are you strong? We don't want to worry about all the areas that we're weak. We know a lot of those already, but playing up your strengths is really powerful. So that is what we're going to learn, hopefully take away from this time together. So why did I choose the NARIS 5 personality structure? I didn't just pick it because it's free, although that was a nice bonus. Being able to do a training on something and not have it cost my audience a dime is huge. But I didn't pick it just for that. It's a really strong, well-documented, founded in science framework that helps you understand what your personality is compared to others. How many of you have ever heard of the Myers-Briggs personality framework? I'm going to date myself. I took the Myers-Briggs, oh my gosh, it must have been 1989 when I first encountered that. It was part of a college class that I took back then. That's really powerful. And the NARIS 5 parallels Myers-Briggs. So it's this style of personality analysis has been around for decades, very well researched. And the difference between Myers-Briggs and NARIS 5, Myers-Briggs, while very strong, you have to pay, and it's not cheap to get your Myers-Briggs assessment. And if you even want to get trained on Myers-Briggs, it's not just out there for public consumption. It's a little tougher. You might have to take a college class or find someone who is Myers-Briggs certified in order to really get insight into it. NARIS, while it really parallels the same type of science as Myers-Briggs, is open sourced. And while there are PhDs and really strong people behind it, you can just get onto their website, take the assessment, and also contribute data and participate in research. And that's a global website. So to me, that's more robust. It's not just doing surveys on a college campus. It's opened up to the public to participate in the research. So it's constantly being refreshed, and it's evolving and getting better and better over time. And as I said, it's free. So not only can you take this training and learn about yourself and take the assessment yourself, if you are a leader, you can now take this PowerPoint, take this training content, take this NARIS 5 personality link, and bring this back to your team and have your entire team do their assessment and teach them the value of this knowledge, and really compare personalities on your own team. And I've done this on my team. I've got 20 trainers, and we've done this with our team, and it's been really valuable to understand how we can collaborate better, how we can be more united as a team. And as I said before, value our differences, but then find common ground. We tend to have less conflict because we understand, we're not having conflict just because I'm a jerk and you're a slacker. It could just be that it's a personality conflict, that we see the world through different lenses, and we can give each other grace for that and find the common ground and get through it. So that's the why behind me choosing this one. And the people at NARIS 5 publish a lot of information. So really, I'm just providing you a summary of what is available to even you to go out and learn yourself. This isn't something that only I can teach. You can go back and teach this to your teams as well. And what they argue is that there are 5 aspects to someone's personality. And they are right up on the screen: energy, mind, nature, tactics, and identity. And I'm going to go through each of these 5, hopefully not spending a ton of time lecturing at you, but I think it's important to understand what they're trying to define. What do each of those letters in your personality type stand for, and what is it saying about you? So let's dive into each of these here. We're going to go through all 5, and the first one being energy. Now, energy isn't about your ability to get up in the morning and go to the gym. It's not just about physical energy. It is about what gives you energy, right? So the first letter in your personality type is going to either be an I or an E. I or an E, I guess I could do that. I stands for you're more introverted, and E is you're more extroverted. Now, it doesn't mean that you're 100% introverted or 100% extroverted. It's a spectrum. It is a sliding scale, and you can be anywhere on that line. As you saw, I was 61% introverted. So feel free to share in the chat. Raymond, 88% extroverted. And you'll find that in sales, you're going to see a little bit more on the extroverted side of the spectrum with those personality types being in sales, or someone who interfaces face-to-face with customers. You tend to be more extroverted. And what that says about you is that an extrovert gains energy through social interaction. So being with other people, being in a room full of people gives you energy. And that connection with someone else, meeting new people, just people around you gives you energy. Introverts, on the other hand, this is me, I'm 61% introverted. Being around lots of people and being socially engaged drains my energy. And so at the end of the day, at a conference where I'm just talking with lots of people, I'm exhausted. So this is really what energy means, is where you get your energy. An introvert, think of it as like a battery. An introvert might need some alone time, some solitude, some quiet in order to recharge their battery. Whereas an extrovert might want to meet up with friends for dinner to recharge their battery. They need that social engagement. So it's how you fill your battery. And I don't know why it is, but often when you're on one end of the spectrum or the other, you marry someone who is the opposite of you. I don't know what happens. Opposites attract. But at the end of the day, I just can we just watch TV and sit on the couch? And my husband's like, let's go out to dinner. Let's call some friends. Let's do something. But we're opposite that way. But understanding that we're different, we can learn to collaborate and still find ways to recharge each other's batteries in different ways. And it's that give and take. So hopefully you can see how this knowledge can help you not just know about yourself, but understand how someone else might see the world. And we all go through this world a little differently and react differently. So far, we've covered just in general the NARIS 5 personality aspects, and our first aspect of personality types being energy. Anyone have any questions or comments? Feel free to come off mute or type in the chat window.
Liz, I find this really fascinating because at the end of the day, like you said, opposite attracts. My husband is the total opposite of me. I'm more of an extrovert and but by understanding his personality traits, sometimes when dealing with situations, not pushing his buttons is really key. And I think this is where it all ties in. How do we utilize these skill sets and understanding to help deal with certain clientels, right? There are clients that they don't want too much detailed information. Just give me the basic. That's all I need. And there are ones that want to go in great detail.
Hmm.
So I think by learning these types of training courses and additional skill set, that will definitely help and transpire for us to be more successful in anything that we do, whether it be at home, friends, family, and work related. So thank you.
Melina, that is such a great point, especially with customers. I think and this is everybody, all of us, humans, we tend to go through the world assuming that most people agree with us, right? The people I hang out with, my friends, it's that confirmation bias. We tend to think something and then we read and become friends with people who agree with us. We create these circles of yes people who are like us. So that gives you that false perception that I'm about to meet someone, I'm about to shake hands with someone, they're probably like me. And that's a mistake to make when dealing with customers. So, assuming that someone's so excited to meet lots of new people and oh my gosh, this is really great. I just love talking to new people. And you've got a customer who's like, say less, please. Like, just, can I speak with you no more than once a week, please? If they're more introverted, but understanding that people are different, what it does for me, it makes me pause. It makes me take a moment to remember that this person I'm about to meet may not agree with me on everything, may not be like me. And I need to maybe present a little less of who I am before I get to know them. So the goal is to get to know someone else first, asking questions, actively listening, understanding them first before dumping my personality on top of them. Really? Because then you can kind of customize and cater. And as salespeople, which I don't want to assume everyone on this call is in sales, but I always argue that we're all in sales in some way, even if it's just selling yourself in your career. If you're in sales, your goal is to cater to the other person first and then start your self branding campaign, right? Charlene, you have your hand up. Please share. You should be able to come off mute or type in the chat window. We're not hearing. Oh, you're on mute again, Charlene. Sorry, we couldn't hear you. Apologies for that. If you do come off mute or get your microphone working, feel free to interrupt me. Sorry about that, Charlene. Do you want to just type in the chat window?
She's typing it in.
Okay, awesome. Appreciate that. Any other thoughts while Charlene is typing from anyone?
Yeah, actually, I guess I can ask a question on behalf of the introverts in the audience. Yeah, I feel like you hear a lot of there's a lot of pressure certainly in professional and social situations to be more extroverted, and there certainly are advantages. Are there advantages to being introverted? What does that look like? Are there strengths to that side as well?
Well, if you look at the numbers, in any given environment, half the people will be introverted and half the people will be extroverted. It really is a strong 50-50 split. Extroverts will have you think that they're the majority, but it's really more of a 50-50 flip. So, what introverts are better at is listening, getting to know someone else first. And also, introverts tend to be better at those one on one or small group interactions where you're actually sharing serious information, exchange of stories between people. Extroverts are great at larger groups and great at small talk and really engaging a large group, being funny and persuasive and that sort of thing, but sometimes aren't as strong at the one-on-one serious conversations. So there are strengths and weaknesses to both sides. The other thing that an introvert can sometimes do is de-escalate conflict. Introverts tend to not be escalators of conflict, and they can kind of get individuals in one-on-ones and talk through things, whereas extroverts sometimes engage more in a group and have a tendency to escalate conflict when it happens. So the articles that are out there on the NARIS 5 website related to these personality differences, whether you're on one side or the other, are really insightful. So I recommend even reading up further. I was just sharing a few examples that I recalled. Charlene says, does a percentage change over time in seasons of your life? Great question. Personality type is similar to IQ, and then it stays pretty consistent throughout your life. However, similar to things like IQ, you can have changes over time if things happen in your life. If you have severe trauma, major change. So, when I took this back in college, when I did the Myers-Briggs, I was already college age. So I was already in like my mostly adult brain at that time. So when I took the personality, this version, many, many, many years later, decades later, it was exactly the same for me. However, like I said, if there's major trauma, major change in life, I do see examples in almost every class where someone's like, oh my gosh, I haven't taken this in forever, and I'm now this. I was that, and now I'm this. If you notice that, when you're younger, you were extremely extroverted, and now you're very introverted, it could have been the context. It could have been your family life, but humans can change. It doesn't change as much as other things, though. It stays pretty stable, similar to IQ. But I love the example that you shared, i.e. the pandemic has made me more introverted. I am 56% extroverted based on the test, but I also just had kids, and now I prefer more alone time and get super drained being in larger groups. So it could also be that season of your life, as you shared. When you have children, and let's say you are 56% extroverted, 56 is right there in the middle. 56 might say that certain social environments energize you, but certain social environments drain you. So it might be contextual, depends on the context, could be who it is. And you might be in the season of your life that being around children all day, every day, all night, 24/7, the children are either, if they're not with you, they're definitely on your mind, can be putting you to, now you're like, oh, where am I today? I'm at 49% extroversion because they've drained your battery. I was in sales for many years, so 15 years sales leadership, and I put on my extroverted hat for many years. But now that I'm in training and my career has moved to be a little bit more in line with my natural personality, I find that I can actually be more extroverted evenings and weekends because my job doesn't require me to be as extroverted, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of nuances to this, and each individual has their individual story and why they are the way they are. Great question. Thank you for that, Charlene. Okay, guys, we are going to get through remember I said there were 5. We've gotten through 1. So we've got 4 more to go, the different personality spectrums. The second is mind. Now they call this mind because it's really how your brain works. And it's really about let's see, let me just see how I can summarize this. If you're more on the observant side of things, the second letter in your personality type will be an S. If you're more intuitive in how your brain works, you'll be an N. And what that means is observant individuals, they're practical. They're more about, I believe this because I saw it. I think this is true and I live my life this way because I experienced it. They tend to have strong habits. They focus on what is happening or what has already happened. They tend to look back in time. What have I observed? What have I experienced in order to define values and what I think about the world? Intuitive people are a little bit more forward thinking. They're a little bit more imaginative. They can envision something and draw a conclusion about it, even if they haven't observed it or experienced it. So they tend to be a little bit more open-minded and curious, and they shy away from anything that is habitual. They prefer novelty and something new over a tradition, for example. They tend to focus on the future and future possibilities. So knowing this about us as humans, that this is a spectrum we have, we're either on the observant side or the intuitive side, where would you think an entrepreneur would fall? Observant or intuitive? Entrepreneur, what are your thoughts on that? Go ahead and feel free to type in the chat window what you think. Observant or entrepreneur? Melina guessed N. Wanting to see some other thoughts there. More people are saying N. Intuitive, future possibilities. So it's kind of a trick question. It really depends on what they're going into business in. But those who are ready to just jump into a startup and invent something new or a new process that they see there's a gap in the market, I'm going to create this new idea. They tend to be more on the end side of things. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, but you're going to start an established franchise, someone who's I want to see the figures, I want to see the books, I want to see this type of market, I'm going to study all the stats, I want the history. So you can see that you could really be an entrepreneur with either of these personality types, but you're going to approach it differently. Observant is going to look at the past, what's the track record, how have other businesses similar to this run? They're going to approach it that way. Intuitive is like, let's go, we're going to make a difference, we're going to do it differently, we don't have to do it like anybody else, let's just dive in. And you'll see both being successful. They just do it differently. So any thoughts on the mind aspect, S's versus N's? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on, but if you think of anything, feel free to chime in, come off mute. Okay, the third personality aspect is your nature. And I still think this is brain, but they were trying to come up with a word for each. This is your nature, and people tend to either be on the T side of the spectrum or the F side of the spectrum, meaning you're thinking and you tend to focus more on logic and facts and what is and what isn't type of thinking. Or you're on the other side, which is F, which is more feeling. You really lean heavily on the emotions of a situation. How is this making everybody feel? And that being just as valuable and important than the thinking piece. So you can be really balanced. You can be someone who's 50% thinking, 50% feeling, or you could be on either end of the spectrum. So in the group that's on the call today, where are my T people? Go ahead and put T in the chat window if you're a T person. I sometimes feel like we need to just have our personality type code like next to our name all the time so people can be like, okay, okay, so we've got a couple T's out there. Where are my F's? Where am I feeling, folks? 77%. I love it. So I have a sister. Actually, I have two sisters, but I have one particular sister. I'm the oldest, she's the youngest. And I am a T person. I am such a T person, my sisters call me a Vulcan. I am just very low emotion. And if anything's going on emotionally, my thought is, well, nobody died. So what's all the emotion about? Like, I just don't understand it. Very low emotion. But my little baby sister is high emotion, high emotion. She will understand the emotions in the room and be so in touch with her own emotions and other people's emotions so quickly. Before I even recognize there is emotion, she's focused on that first. And that is just as important to her as the facts of a situation. And it's really fascinating. I really feel like people that can have both, that's where that high emotional intelligence comes in. They can ascertain the facts of a situation. They can get all the logic out of the way, pros and cons and all of that, but they're also sensitive to the human factors involved in a situation and how, you can spew facts all day long, but if someone's pissed off, they're not going to hear it, right? You have to be able to analyze emotions just as well as you do. Charlene shares, I'm in my feelings for sure. High empath. Yes. Now, that doesn't mean one is stronger than the other. And I've had this conversation with my sister a lot because I really value her way of seeing the world. She values the way that I see the world. And in many cases, if we're discussing a situation, often a family thing, or we're planning a family vacation and we can't agree on anything, between the two of us, if we can get both of us to agree on something, it is usually a better solution than what we would have come up with on our own. You take two people who see the world differently, put their heads together, and if you can get them to collaborate, you get a better outcome in the end. So, in a nutshell, me recognizing, understanding that about myself, I am high thinking, low feeling. That can be a strength in certain situations, but it can also be a huge weakness if I'm not paying attention to my teammates and their emotions about a situation. So what do? I make sure that my team, at least one or two of my team leads have high feeling. So I hire to fill my weakness, to make sure that someone else has a strength to compensate for my weakness. And if I'm really strong in an area, maybe I don't necessarily need to beef up the team on that area because that's where I'm strong. But understanding those differences between us is helpful. And admitting where, let's not even call it a weakness, it's just who I am. I don't experience high emotion. And for a long time, my sisters used to accuse me of suppressing my emotions. I'm like, no, I just don't care about that thing enough to cause an emotion. It just really isn't there. And there are people like that. And you hopefully learn that about yourself and maybe some other folks on this call from the personality type. Any other thoughts on energy, mind, or nature? Reminder, energy was the extroverted, introverted. Mind was observing the past versus intuiting the future. And nature was about whether you're thinking versus feeling. Any other thoughts about these? Maria shares, admitting how we are wired so we can all do better together is a win for everyone. I love how you phrased that. Thank you, Maria.
Liz, I also just had a comment I wanted to share. I
Sure.
really appreciate you touching on the importance of the feeling aspect. I think when I took this assessment in high school and got very high on the logical, rational reasoning, I sort of arrogantly assumed that that meant I was smart because I could decide things rationally. And I realized pretty, in like college and the workplace that having a good empathetic understanding is really critically important to getting stuff done. And I think it's been good to focus on the feeling aspect and actually try to grow that side of myself. So I appreciate you touching on that because I've definitely lived that experience.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. And the vulnerability to share that I thought the same thing too. I'm really good at math and science. I'm logical. I'm smart. Like, that's a great thing. But I, many times throughout my life, have inadvertently hurt someone's feelings just because I was blissfully unaware of their feelings. And I have learned, so remember how I mentioned that IQ and personality type are fairly stable. Emotional intelligence can be learned and grown. So if you're on the thinking side, you'll probably always be on the thinking side, but you can learn how to compensate and to grow that and to be more intuitive about people's emotions. So what I do when I'm on a Teams call or a Zoom meeting where I'm with coworkers, where I need to be focused on their reactions to things, I force myself to not take as many detailed notes with my logic, and I want all my notes and I want everything perfect and I want to mind map it and all that off to the side for me. I do less of that and I do more of looking at faces. I also encourage in all our meetings to be camera on so that I can see body language. And I force myself to make eye contact and look at people's faces and notice if there was an emotional reaction, because it's not in my nature to do so. I would, just tend to not even, like, if someone has an emotion, they're going to raise their hand and share it, right? Well, no, people don't do that. It shows on their face and they might not ever share it. So I have to set a goal. I have to write it down and I have to make myself actively grow that side of myself. Let's see. Melina shares Theodore Roosevelt. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I love that. Yes. And isn't it Maya Angelou who said, people won't remember. Oh, I'm gonna totally ruin it. So hopefully someone can put it in the chat, the actual quote, but people won't remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. So very great quotes that I hear shared often. Lena shares, becoming a parent has taught me to try to meet in the middle between T and F, especially when you have a highly emotional child. Yes, I was going to bring up this personality analysis doesn't just help in the workplace, it helps in our personal lives with our significant others, our siblings, dealing with parents who are different than you, and then parenting. And goodness gracious, if you have more than one child, they're not going to have the same personality. You're going to have to change your personality every time you parent each individual child to really get to know them and understand them. So take this personality assessment. If you have teenagers, make your teenagers take it. It'll hopefully help you understand them and they'll be able to understand you more. I am at the best stage of life. My kids are grown. They're both gone. I'm a grandmother. If I can make it to this stage, you can too. It is the best. I'll tell you, it's worth it in the end. Okay, guys, we've got 2 more. 3 down, 2 more to go. This next one is tactics. And tactics are the strategies that you use to get through life and be successful. Let me go ahead and share with you some things about judging people. I want to share that it's not that judging people are judgmental. Slightly different. You could be a judging personality type and not be judgmental. However, my judging folks, because I'm one of them, you are at risk of becoming judgmental if you don't control the judging part of your brain. You can easily be someone who falls into that mode of judging other people. So just a little extra note about that. But judging folks tend to be decisive and thorough. They're highly organized. They value clarity, predictability, being able to predict this is right, this is wrong, this is how we should do things. And they like structure. And they prefer planning over spontaneity. So a judging person is someone, let's say, think about your company, people who work around you. Is there that one person who's like, okay, so how are we going to do this always? Can someone document that process, please? I'd like to know that when this type of thing happens, we always do this. That's a judging person. They want guardrails. They want policies and procedures, and that way they can predict how it's going to go every time. But you can imagine someone who is judging has established in their mind for their entire world what is right and what is wrong. They tend to have strong moral structures as well. So it makes them easily fall prey to looking at someone else and thinking, well, if you'd only done the right thing, you wouldn't have had that bad thing happen. So they tend to think that they have guardrails that could apply to everyone. So we have to be careful when we're J folks that if we live by these guardrails and have these rules in our life. My husband always laughs at me because he's like, you make up so many rules for yourself. Like, but it's how I live. I like the rules. You know, you only go to the left lane if you're passing. I will die first than go into a left lane if I'm not going to pass. And I think anyone else who's in the left lane and they're not passing should also die. Like that's a rule in my head. But we're rule makers, J folks. But sometimes we can rule ourselves into a box, or we can become judgmental of others who don't necessarily believe the same rules that we do. So be careful about that. I'm just checking the chat window in case I missed anything. Judging seems a harsh word. I know, that's why I have to it's not judgmental, but it is judging. We tend to judge things. I picture myself with a gavel. I'm like, that is right or wrong. Yep, Raymond, being a planner, you have to be a J. 72% P. Fortunately, my wife is a super J. I love that. The positives of being the opposite. We can see the benefits in it too. Raymond shares, I do have moments where I'm P because I just want to go with the flow. Yeah, and you can change. You can adapt to a context. Now that we know these things about ourselves, we can choose not to fall into our own preference, our own brain habit, and maybe think of things a little differently. Well, let me describe our P folks, since I went a little deep on the J's. Prospecting individuals are very good at improvising and spotting opportunities. You'll never hear a prospecting person say, well, the reason we do it that way is because we've always done it that way. They're open to new and open to accepting that with every guardrail or with every rule, there's gray areas. Prospecting folks are a little bit more open to chatting with someone who disagrees with them. They're a little bit more open. Whereas a judging person is like, no, I'm not going to watch the other news channel because I want to watch the news channel that agrees with me, right? Judging folks want to hear things that match their values. Prospecting folks tend to be more flexible, and they're a little bit more in the realm of being a nonconformist. And they don't necessarily just follow what society says they should. You should want to do this, you should like that. They can sometimes think outside the box. And they prefer keeping their options open. So a prospecting person, if you catch them on a Monday and say, hey, you want to go out Saturday night? They're going to say, probably, but let me get back with you, because they want to keep their options open because something better might be happening with their plans. They don't want to commit to that one thing. because it's a little too confining. So I tend to think of us Jays, we like our little boxes. I'm a cat. If the box is there, I want to get in the box, right? If I fit, I sit in the box. Prospecting people feel constrained by the box. They don't want the box. They like to have the open edges and be able to pivot and think of new ways to do things. So when you think of tactics, it's the tactics that go on in our own mind to navigate the world. Any other thoughts on this? Prospecting people, never really thought of that. Yes. Maria, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can see you at the next webinar. Yeah, I agree with you, Jennifer. This whole topic is super fascinating to me, which is why I love teaching it. I love reading up on it. Great stuff. Okay, guys, we are at tactics. We've got one more. We're nearing the end of our time. Hopefully it has flown by. It's gone really fast for me. One more personality aspect, and then bonus for those that stay on to the very end. I've got a chart that summarizes this all for you. So if you're a judging person, you're going to love the chart. I'm a chart person. I like to see everything on one page. So I'll share that with you as well. Okay, the last personality aspect. So your personality type starts with 4 letters. Then there's a dash and an extra letter. This is that extra letter. You can either be a dash A or a dash T. And a dash A type personality is assertive. A dash T is turbulent. So let me describe what these are for you. An assertive person is self-assured. So we're not using the word assertive as being someone who raises their hand and speaks up easily. It's not just they're verbally assertive. Assertive is more, I'm confident enough to assert my personality forward. I'm self-assured, I'm even-tempered, I tend to be confident. I'm resistant to stress because I know myself and I'm solid in myself. So I don't tend to be as reactive to the environment around me. So I'm very resistant to stress. Someone else having a bad day isn't necessarily going to impact me that much because my personality and my identity, who I am and who I know myself to be, is very strong. But guess what? That's not only a strength. There's 2 sides to every thing here. Assertive folks also refuse to worry too much because they want to stay in that solid foundation, and that we don't want the boat to rock too much when we're in our assertive space. And we don't push ourselves as hard when it comes to achieving goals or success. And I think it's kind of like, if you're content with who you are, you may not be as apt to stretch yourself and try new things and worry about your growth as much because you feel like you're at a plateau and you're at a good place. So it comes with pros and cons. Now, turbulent individuals, they have a higher drive for success, and they tend to be perfectionists, but eager to improve and grow and try new things. So that's great because they're always pushing the envelope with themselves. Maybe a little sense of never quite content, always looking for more. But what happens, those are all great things. Someone who is constantly driving for success tend to be really great in sales, right? Because what's that next carrot? What's that next deal? Always looking for more. But what you have to be careful with when you're turbulent is that you also tend to be a little bit more self-conscious and sensitive to your environment and others. So someone making a comment to you on social media could destroy your day because someone, decided to say something and now you're second guessing yourself. You're someone else's stress gets handed off to you, and then you absorb it, and now you're stressed. So you're a little bit more sensitive to stress and the emotions of others, and you care more about what other people think. So can you see how these are like almost mirror images of each other? Because I can see these two folks, the A people and the T people, getting into a fight because it's like, you shouldn't care so much about what other people think. Well, you should care a little bit about what other people think, right? So there's definitely strengths and weaknesses to these two identities, ways that you see yourself. And I promised you in these last 3 minutes a chart. So remember that there's 5, it's called the NARIS 5 categories of personality aspects, but it's also called 16 personalities. And when I was first learning all of this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a chart because I'm a judging person. So I've come up with this chart. And because we're short on time, I'm going to go ahead and put it all up on the screen. Chart, ta-da! These are our 5 categories of individuals. So if you're an analyst, you're purple, that's a category. And analysts basically have an N and a T in their personality type. And there are 4 types of analysts depending on if they are introverted or extroverted, and whether they are a judging person or a prospecting person. So underneath analysts, you have architects, logicians, commanders, and debaters. So does that at least help you understand how I created the chart? This is where the 16 personalities come in, and there's the 5 columns. So we've got diplomats, sentinels, and explorers. So in this last minute here, if you are willing, go ahead and type the name of your personality type, because I'm an architect. I'm on the top left. I'm an INTJ, and then I'm a -A on the strategies I use. Executive. Nice, Raymond. Logician, Jordan. Campaigner. Awesome. We've got hopefully some great insights about yourself. Ooh, we've got 2 that are the same. Charlene and Armel are both campaigners. That's great. One last note here. I'm not going to read through the whole chart for you. We can provide this PowerPoint to you if you'd like. But on the right-hand side, the -A and -T, it does help describe the strategies that you'll tend to use for success. So if you're a -A, but you're also introverted, so you're in the top pink box, and you're a -A, you tend to use confident individualism to differentiate yourself. But if you're a -T and introverted, you're going to lean on constant improvement. Make sense? But if you're on the extroverted half, the bottom pink box, and you're a -A, you're going to use people mastery. You're going to really understand how people think and work, and partner with people and leverage your people mastery for success. But if you're a -T, you're going to tend to use social engagement. So that's more about being in the right places, being with the right people. So slightly different, but in the same category. And we are 1 minute over, so I apologize, but I did want to share this one last slide with you. Everything that we learned today can be applied in all of these categories, whether it's increasing your self-awareness, focusing on personal and professional growth and development, amping up your cultural competency, because if you can understand how you are the same and how you are different from other people, you can navigate multiple cultures and engage with cultures that are different from your own. You can take this information back. You can do team assessments and be a better leader and stronger force for unification on your team. And last but not least, find a mentor who is the same personality type as you. So we've got several campaigners in this group. Reach out to each other and connect. Find a mentor who is the same personality as you so that they can see the world the way you do and give you great advice. But then don't stop there. Get another mentor who has a different personality type as you so that they can give you advice and guidance that you would have never thought of for yourself. So I will end with that and pass it back to you, Melina. Hopefully you all enjoyed and learned and experienced growth during this last hour.
Oh, thank you so much, Liz. We learned so much today. I took this test a while ago, and it's really nice to kind of see kind of tying everything in, especially with a class like this. So we thank you for your time, and everyone, our members, our leaders, thank you for taking the time. We would love to get your feedback because this is some of the things that our committee is committed to is really, advancing some higher education, and not just in our products and services that we provide, but really in mastery of ourselves, right? Understanding who we are, how we can better serve not only our family, our friends, our community, our clients, but just overall in general. So I appreciate everyone's time today, and we had a great group. So thank you very much. Stay tuned. We will have an upcoming event for the mortgage committee as well too in September. So dates, we have it tentatively scheduled for September 10th from 2 to 4 Eastern time. And again, we're going to bring back additional tools and resources. Previously, we had Freddie Mac coming to join us and providing their, DAP1, DPA1 resources. That was a complimentary tool for our originators. So we're going to have Fannie Mae coming to provide us some updates on their products and services, as well as their tools and resources. So we're excited about that. Thank you all very much. This is, fruits of labor that our committee has worked towards. And Liz, thank you so much again for making it fun and interactive for everybody.
It was my honor. Thanks for having me here.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and looking forward to seeing everyone in a national convention as well, too, if you haven't already registered.
Yeah,
So,
come find me. I'm the introvert in the
yes.
corner.
Bye, everyone. Have a great one.
Bye.